Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Jennifer Wilt, clinical trauma specialist, nutritionist, and survivor. And we'll learn from her about her powerful journey from despair to purpose and how her map to hope helps others rebuild with practical tools and renewed faith. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure
Yes.
not just in India, a lot of people, not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about your journey. We'll talk about how one can go from darkness to purpose with the help of hope. Hope is a big thing. We'll talk about all that and also about your map to hope. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your story, your background, so that the audience knows a bit more about who they are listening to.
Sure. So like you said, my name is Jennifer Wilt. I live in Williamstown, West Virginia, where I was born and raised. The only time I did not live here is when I was in the military. I was in the U.S. Air Force. And shortly after that, I lived in Louisiana. And then I moved back home where I am currently married and have two amazing kids. And yeah, my journey has been wild, but I'm grateful to be where I am now. Like I said, I was enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, where unfortunately I was sexually assaulted by a coworker, and that set me on a trajectory that never saw coming. And after my sexual assault, I developed several different mental health conditions that really kind of left me in this debilitated cycle where I'd be okay, and then something triggering would happen, and then I would spiral, and then I'd lose my job or whatever it may be. Something would happen as a result of that, and then I'd slowly get back up again, and it was just this endless cycle of this pattern over and over and over again. And I my PTSD was so bad, it literally controlled my life. And how I look back sometimes and how I managed to land a husband during this time, I will never know. But I did, and he's amazing, and he's the best husband I could ever ask for. And I really got to a point where, I suffered for like 15 years. And I really got to a point where I thought, you know what? I've just been masking my symptoms all these years. It's all I've been doing. I haven't done anything to try to heal my actual mental health disorders. And so I kind of just woke up one day. I had hit rock bottom again. Only this time, thankfully, I had a wonderful support system in my husband. And I really dug in. And I dug in. And I started researching everything I could on the brain and how it worked and how nutrition could affect it and how this and how that. And just every treatment there is on the planet. And after, a couple years of researching and digging in and doing all of these things, doing the work myself, I got really serious with my therapist about, actually trying to heal these things and overcome them. That I was able to get there, but it was, in protocols that don't get used enough, that I really found ultimate healing. And so I have used the things that I've learned, plus the things that maybe didn't work for me. I still held on to those in case I could use them to help somebody else someday. And I remember at some point thinking, you know what, I need to get some like certifications here or something, because I have just been like dedicating my life to this for the last couple of years. So that's what I started doing. And I have now kind of made it my mission that my hope is that I can help people not suffer as long as I did, and actually learn to heal and find hope and realize you can do this. You don't have to live like this forever. And healing absolutely is possible. But you're going to have to do the work. But if you want to do the work, I will gladly walk alongside you and help you do that. So,
Absolutely, absolutely, Jennifer. So you said about learn to heal.
hmm
How does this learning part happen when you need that healing itself? Because a lot
hmm
of people, the maximum they will go is to go to a therapist, and if they are lucky they will find a good one. If not so lucky, then they will keep on changing. So how do you learn to heal the right way? It took you several, I'm sure quite a bit of time. For others, what is the shortest rule to way to route to learn to heal, Jennifer? Is there a particular way you can suggest to people who want to heal but don't know how to the route to take
hmm
towards healing?
Yeah, well, I absolutely like one of the big proponents in working with me is you have to have a therapist. You have to have a therapist because you're not going to be able to move on in the future if your body and you are stuck in the past. So you have to be able to heal those things, but at the same time, there's things you can do now to absolutely aid in that healing. And so there's three main things that I focus on when I'm helping people through coaching. The first thing is finding a community. People do not realize how important community is. I've got actually a friend who's in my speakers bureau who speaks about loneliness. And she speaks to this new generation who is considered the loneliest generation ever. And, everybody's connected on these, but nobody is actually having a deep connection with somebody that they can trust, that they can um, use to help them get to where they need to be. And so, or somebody who just understands what they're going through. Because, that was a big thing for me is I felt like there was nobody else who understood what I was going through. Where in reality, there was a ton of people who understood what I was going through. It's just I didn't know they existed. And so finding community, like our local vet center, um, they had, a PTSD group that I joined in the beginning. And then, at my local church, I found um, people who just they get it and they understand. And so I'm constantly encouraging people to find a support group um, or just it doesn't even have to be a group. It could be one other person, but finding somebody that can relate to them and help them and walk alongside them and kind of be an accountability partner too. That's big too. That's part of what a coach is it's being that accountability partner with somebody else to say, hey, yeah, let's do this and we'll do it together. And I'm going to make sure that you do. And, but you have to be willing. You have to be willing. But yeah, finding the community is a big one. The other one is faith. And when I say faith, I don't necessarily mean a religious faith. That's what it is for me, but that doesn't mean it has to be for you. But you have to have a faith that things can get better. Because without faith, you cannot have hope. And without hope is a very dangerous place to be. That's Without hope is where suicidal ideations become suicidal actions. And that's what we're trying to prevent from happening. Unfortunately, I've lost several friends to suicide and I've seen the aftermath and it destroys families and it just destroys the souls of other people, the people that stay behind that loved you. And so that's, a big message that I have too in my speaking. But, if we can cultivate that faith in you, and it could just be somebody like me or somebody else who's actually done it, who says it is possible, you can do it. And knowing that it can be done, that's a big thing for your psyche too. And then the last piece, which is a very, very big thing that people don't think about when it comes to mental health is nutrition. That nutrition for me was huge, huge. That was a thing that really like got the ball rolling down the hill. And people think, well, how can what I eat affect my trauma? it doesn't affect your trauma per se, but it does help change the neuroplasticity in your brain. It does help change its makeup into a new way where you can view your trauma differently and process it differently. And the thing is, too, when you feel good, when you're actually have a healthy body, you have a healthy mind. Your mind is part of your body. People don't think about that all the time, but like the gut brain connection is a real, real thing. And if your body's feeling better, your brain's feeling better, everything's feeling better. It's like if you reduce inflammation in your body, you're reducing inflammation in your brain. And it's a huge, huge thing. And I don't necessarily subscribe to a particular diet, although just based on research and my own experience, I think keto is the absolute best way to go for mental health, but it's not for everybody. But my biggest thing is getting rid of the processed junk that we're buying on our shelves, the sugary pops and all of these things. And yeah, sugar and processed food. That's if we can eliminate that, you're eliminating probably 80% of your problems. And it's all connected. And then, I think it's like 60% of all people with mental health disorders also have some sort of other health disorder. So it's all connected. But those three pillars, and then I get very kind of individualized after that as to what people actually need. But if you can start there, it would make a huge difference and send you down your path to healing. So
Absolutely, absolutely, Jennifer. We'll come to the nutrition part, the faith part, and the community part. But first, let's understand. You also talk about this whole thing about, myth. One common
Mhm.
myth about, trauma recovery, and that you talk about that people must unlearn that. What is that myth that about trauma that you want people to focus?
I learned what I'm sorry, what did you say?
There's
What were
there
you
is a
saying?
myth about trauma recovery that you want people to unlearn, to forget, and that is because that makes people get stuck in terms of trauma.
Oh, sure. One big thing is we kind of get stuck in this, what I like to call like a cloak of victimhood, where it doesn't feel good in there, but you know it. You understand it. It it it's the thing that's holding you back, but it's also the thing that's keeping you safe. And stepping out into your comfort zone, that or stepping out of your comfort zone, excuse me. But stepping out of your comfort zone is scary for so many people because it's unfamiliar. But it's also awful to keep wearing that cloak and not getting any relief and not getting to where you want to be. And so the hardest part is just taking off that cloak and trying. And it's scary, but it's also necessary. And the thing I always like to tell people is like, your trauma was not your fault. How your brain chose to react to that situation, it wasn't under your control. There's this very reptilian old part of your brain that instantly kicks in when your brain detects a threat. And you have no choice as to or should I say, what stress response your brain is going to choose for you. And you get stuck there. You get stuck there. And in order to go out of that trauma response, though, you have to do that. That is the part that you have to do. So your trauma is not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. And it's scary to think, and sometimes it doesn't seem fair. I know for me, it felt like, why is it that somebody did something to me, but I'm the one that has to go through this? I'm the one that has to fight this battle. I'm the one that has to do this. And you know what? It isn't fair, but it doesn't change the fact that that's how it's going to have to be. And you have to get your care team. You get your care team together, whether it's a psychiatrist, your therapist, maybe even a doctor, your friends, whoever your support system is, and then finding that community too. You got to set yourself up for success with the right people, and once you get there, you got to put in the work. But I could promise you that taking off that cloak of victimhood, it's scary, yes, but it's necessary. And once you do, you realize, like there's sometimes I look back and I think, how was I functioning? Because my mental health was so bad. It's like, how was I even functioning? And you realize just how much fresher the air is, if you will, once you're able to actually finally step out of that cloak of victimhood. But you can do it. You can do it. And that's where that community comes in really handy.
Absolutely. So you talk about, nutrition, and you talk about
Mhm.
mind healing nutrition.
Mhm.
Now, what are some of these things, if you can tell, that can, heal the mind in
Sure.
that sense that you mean?
Yeah. So something that our brain absolutely needs, and for some reason I know why people are afraid of it, especially here in America, but is fat. Fat is not your foe. Fat is your best friend. It is your brain's best friend. It is your hormones' best friend. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing that people need, and especially women, um, that can make a huge difference in your life, is making sure you're getting healthy fats. And, I'm not talking about like all the terrible stuff that's in the processed crap that they put on our shelves. I'm talking about real fat from real food, real whole foods. So like avocados are amazing and they are great for your brain. Macadamia nuts, beef. Uh, I mean, chicken doesn't have a lot of fat, but beef, there's nothing I love more than a juicy ribeye. So or salmon, or actually something I eat a lot of that people will be like, ugh, but sardines. I eat a lot of sardines, but sardines are like, they're a superfood. And they're cheap. They're so cheap. So, why not? But once you know how to cook them, but I love my air fryer. I live with my air fryer, but fats are huge. But I would say fat, 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 and then getting rid of the processed food and the sugar, and just eating real food, real single ingredient foods you don't have to really prepare even a lot of. But yeah, those quick grabs, I always keep macadamia nuts. I always keep avocado. And then I also always keep, meats and fish and things like that. And I'll put like, a little bit of heavy cream in my coffee, things like that. And that, not everybody is. I mean, there's some people out there who are vegans. There's still fats that you can get easily, like, olive oil, avocado oil, things like that. MCT oil is a big one. MCT oil is, if you want to add one thing to your diet to really help your brain, it's MCT oil. So, but hopefully that can get you started. But really, honestly, it's more about what you're avoiding just as much as you are what you're ingesting. So,
Absolutely. So, Jennifer, out of all these things, you see, in terms of nutrition, community, faith, hope also comes along with that. If there is one thing that you would choose, which one would be that?
one thing, oh man, I would probably, honestly, probably community, not feeling alone, and feeling like you can do it, and feeling like you've got a team that can help you, um, that can rally around you, that you can rally around too. Because, helping other people is just as good for your mental health as anything else. And a lot of people think, well, I have to have it together, or I have to have healed already, or I have to do, no, 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 no. while you're still in your darkness, you can still help other people in their darkness. And being with somebody else too. It's just, I just wish people realize how much of an impact their isolation has on their mental health. So, and social media does not get you out of isolation. You're only seeing the skim surface of people's lives, and you're seeing what they want you to see anyway. It's not the same thing as having a real connection with somebody else, somebody that you can talk to, somebody that you can, go on exercises with, like go on walks with, somebody you actually can touch and feel and interact with. It's not the same thing, not by a mile. So, but yeah, community. And that's something that our veterans, I'm actually joining a task group here back home, to focus on veterans, because we have so many veterans that are lonely and are isolated. And I have some friends in law enforcement that the amount of suicide attempts by veterans they respond to, that's honestly the whole reason we're starting this task force, because it's so heavy. It's so prevalent. And so it's like getting them out of isolation is the number one thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have this whole thing called Hope Searchers Toolkit. Tell us a bit about
Mhm.
that. How does it help? How people can make the best use of it?
Yeah, so that's where a lot of this comes in, and this is where we kind of get into that nitty gritty. So the first is the first aid kit, and that was your community and your support system and your care team. That's your first aid kit. That's the first place we're going. And then we also have what represents a lantern is our faith, which we already hashed out there. And then a compass, and a compass is what will define as your purpose, the thing that your North Star, if you will, and helping people kind of uncover what that is. And the simplest way, when people ask, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Your purpose is to take your trauma, the most influential thing in your life, the thing that caused you the most pain. If you can learn how to take that and flip it around and use it to help other people, that's your purpose. That's the thing that's going to get you to where you want to be. Because there's such a connection in service and helping others. People don't realize how much helping others helps yourself. So knowing what that purpose is, so you have your first aid kit, your lantern, your compass, then also our fuel, and that's our nutrition. That's where we're eating the right things to get us to where we need to go. Because the thing is too, if your nutrition's off, you're not sleeping well, you're dealing with inflammation, you're all this stuff, you don't feel like it. People always say, I don't feel like it. Well, you're never going to feel like it if you're eating like crap and you're not, and you don't have anybody to help you and things like that. So, the fuel is important too. And then we also need our map. And our map is what we build together. It's what is made up of what I call waypoints. Like that's a place where we need to either learn something, develop a tool, something to get us to the next waypoint, to get us further down our journey to making it to hope. So that's the overall comprehensive toolkit, if you will, or a backpack. I always call it my backpack of hope. So, but that's what we're carrying in there. So we start with there and we just keep moving forward. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. There is so much to learn about all this, Jennifer, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about this, and take your help where needed as certified
mhm.
clinical trauma specialist. What's the best way for them to do so?
So you can find me on, I think, all the social media platforms. It's just at a map to hope. I haven't really done anything with my YouTube yet, but I'm getting ready to. And then Facebook Instagram, TikTok. I think that's it, actually. Those 3 things right there. Or you can go to my website, which is just amaptohope.com. And then all of our information's on there too. And I always do free consultations, just because you never know if somebody's going to mesh with you or even like your personality or whatever. You know, I say I'm not for everyone, but I'm for someone. And so, you want to make sure that you connect with somebody, especially on something like this. So if it's something that we think that we can work together on, absolutely. But so I'm always willing to do free consultations with people. So, and you can schedule those right on there also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks.